The first official contact between humans and the Vex was supposed to be a formal diplomatic affair. The Alliance Council had spent months selecting representatives, preparing cultural briefings, and establishing protocols. No one had anticipated that biology would render their careful preparations meaningless. Lieutenant Jack Miller stood at attention as the alien delegation walked down the ramp of their sleek vessel. Ambassador Thompson had drilled the human welcoming committee relentlessly on proper etiquette. Maintain eye contact, but don't stare. Keep expressions neutral. Allow the Vex to initiate any physical contact. Miller followed the instructions flawlessly, right up until the moment when the third alien in the procession suddenly stumbled. She was clearly female, with delicate features set in luminescent blue skin. Her large, almond-shaped eyes widened as they fixed on Miller, her pupils dilating until they nearly eclipsed the silver irises. The fins along her scalp flared, shifting from pale blue to a vibrant magenta that matched the sudden flush spreading across her cheeks. "Is something wrong?" Ambassador Thompson whispered to the lead Vex diplomat. The alien leader's expression could only be described as mortified. "Please excuse Kala. She is experiencing an unexpected biological response." Miller maintained his composure, even as the alien named Kala continued to stare at him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. The delegation moved on, though Kala had to be gently guided by one of her companions. Dr. Rita Patel reviewed the medical data on her tablet for the 5th time, still struggling to believe what she was seeing. "So let me get this straight," she said to Vex Chief Medical Officer Trin. "Your species has a biological attraction response that can be triggered by specific physical traits." Trin's translucent eyelids flickered in what Dr. Patel had learned was the Vex equivalent of a nod. It is rare, but not unheard of. When a Vex encounters a potential mate with highly favorable genetic traits, their body can enter an accelerated reproductive cycle, and apparently humans possess these traits in abundance, Dr. Patel said, gesturing to the readings showing elevated hormones in nearly every female Vex who had encountered human males. "Not just favorable traits," Trin clarified, his own skin flushing slightly. "Ideal traits. Your species' musculature, endurance, thermal regulation, and sensory capabilities are extraordinary by our standards. Your physical resilience alone is remarkable." Dr. Patel tried to maintain her professional demeanor. "This is affecting all female Vex. Nearly all who are of reproductive age," Trin confirmed. "The effect is strongest with your military personnel. Their enhanced physical conditioning seems to amplify the response." Kala pressed her forehead against the cool metal wall of her quarters, trying to calm her racing heart. 3 days had passed since her humiliating display at the greeting ceremony, and her condition had only worsened. The hormone suppressants Trin had prescribed barely took the edge off. A chime at her door made her jump. "Medical Officer Trin requests entry," announced the ship's eye. Kala composed herself as best she could before allowing the door to slide open. Trin entered, accompanied by Dr. Patel, and to Kala's horror, Lieutenant Miller. Her fins flared involuntarily, and she backed away. "What is he doing here?" she demanded, her translator barely keeping up with her rapid speech. "I've explained your condition to Lieutenant Miller," Dr. Patel said gently. "He's volunteered to help with our research." "I'm sorry about your discomfort," Miller said, his deep voice sending an involuntary shiver through Kala's body. "I want to understand what's happening so we can find a solution." Trin approached Kala with a medical scanner. "Your readings are still elevated. The human pheromones are triggering a cascade effect in your endocrine system. Can you make it stop?" Kala asked desperately. "That's what we're trying to determine," Dr. Patel replied. "But we need to understand the full extent of the reaction first." Over the following weeks, a new protocol was established. Human and Vex interactions were carefully managed, with pheromone-blocking technology developed for diplomatic functions. Medical teams from both species worked around the clock to understand the phenomenon. From Miller and Kala, however, something unexpected developed. Their regular meetings for medical research had evolved into genuine friendship. Miller found Kala's brilliant mind and different perspective fascinating, while Kala discovered that humans were far more than just physically impressive specimens. Your species survived on a death world, Kala said during one of their now regular discussions in the station's observation deck. Her biology had slowly adjusted to Miller's presence, though the initial attraction had never fully disappeared. Everything on your planet tried to kill you, so you evolved to be stronger, faster, more resilient. Miller laughed. I'd guess Earth does have its challenges, but we just call it home. My people evolved in a stable environment with few predators, Kala explained. We developed intelligence and technology instead of physical prowess. When we see humans, our biology recognizes the perfect complement to our own genetic makeup. Is that all it is? Miller asked. Just biology. Kala's fins rippled gently, now a soft pink rather than the intense magenta of their first meeting. It started that way, but I've learned there's much more to humans than your physical attributes. The Joint Human-Vex Scientific Conference marked 6 months since first contact. Ambassador Thompson smiled as he watched the mixed crowd of humans and aliens mingling comfortably, most of the Vex now acclimated to human presence. Lieutenant Miller stood at the edge of the gathering, deep in conversation with Kala. Her fins now maintained a permanent pinkish hue around him, but the uncontrolled biological response had long since settled into something more nuanced. They're quite the pair, Dr. Pato remarked, joining Thompson. Who would have thought an involuntary biological reaction would lead to the first human-Vex cultural exchange program? Biology brought our species together, Thompson replied, but it's understanding that's keeping us there. Across the room, Miller said something that made Kala laugh, the sound like tinkling crystals. Her hand brushed against his briefly, a touch that once would have overwhelmed her senses, but now carried the comfortable familiarity of two beings from different worlds who had found common ground. In the vastness of space, two species had discovered that sometimes attraction was just the beginning of understanding.